people can get really offended at things if you say it to them. But maybe if they see it without any words and you can interpret it, maybe they'll have that second to think about it before they judge you and get offended. That's what I want. If this is my small way that I can impart some humanity into this world, that's what I want to do.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today. I had a foundation say that they didn't think that the arts needed any tools, or no one was asking for any tools to help improve fundraising or show impact. How do you respond to that?
Well, I would say that I think a lot of places, it's easy to show impact if you are doing a food drive for a food bank. It's easy to show, your contribution if you're doing a homeless shelter. It's not so easy when they say, oh, but you're just pretty dancing. Okay, great. But it actually impacts people's lives. Well, yeah, sure, it's pretty. And that's about all the further it goes. But it does touch people's lives. And that's really what I hope for, especially with my dance company, is that we either are helping someone come out of a bad place, or we're presenting something that is representing what they're feeling and bringing validity to it for them. We've had people come out after a show and be like, oh my gosh, I saw myself up there. Thank you, in tears. But there's no way to measure that. So when you go to the granting agencies, they look at the numbers, they look at data, and they'll be like, well, this place makes much more impact, but we don't really know that because there's not a way to measure it besides dollars and cents.
Right. So what I call the transactional impact, which is what we focused on for the last 30 years or so, because that's all we knew to measure. So what do you hope to show with this new tool, the impact that that you provide? What do you hope? What I like to say, the hard data. What do you hope to find in this data?
Well, I'm just hoping that it will have a concrete way to say, we help people with their emotional sense of well-being. We help people to be able to understand different situations that maybe they didn't before they came into it. So it brings greater learning. Anything like that is just up to this point not measurable, but is a huge part of what we do. That's what I'm hoping it will bring, so that when we go to the granting agencies, they can see there are places that just do pretty dance, and there is a place for that. Absolutely. Some people don't want to think about things. They want to just escape. That's great. But there are other organizations too that are willing to dive deeper and go, okay, this might be not quite what everybody's happy to see, but it's going to make them think. It's going to make them look at life differently. And that's what we want.
How do you communicate that, or what drives you, I guess, is really the question to do this work?
What drives me is really the impact that it has made on the people around me, especially, and for the dancers themselves. So the company focuses on diversity, inclusion, and equality, not just for what we present, but in our dancers' lives, in our board, in everything. So when, I have dancers who for many, many, many years were criticized for their weight or criticized for the way they look. And they now have a place to come where that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the whole person. And can you bring your authentic self to this space to truly convey something, to get people to have a true emotional feeling? Because in this world of technology, we're on Zoom right now, right? This world of technology, you're not touching people. You don't have the same kind of conversations. You don't understand body language the same way. There are so many things that I see even with my own children that they're missing because of all this technology. And what we're doing is saying, okay, take a minute and remember that there is so much more to the human interaction than just texting someone or whatever. And so when I see that reaction from people, when people come out of the theater crying, or people come out of the theater laughing, or just so happy, we had some of those comments on our last show. It was like, I don't remember the last time I was this happy. And it's like, yes, that's what I want. So I like to help people feel things, and I'm very empathetic generally. So it makes me happy to see that other people can be touched and feel as well, to bring that whole person together.
It was really an aha moment for me during the pandemic when advocating for funding for the arts, and the arts were just discarded or overlooked. Right. And
Sure.
so that to me was like, wait a minute. And I started digging into numbers that lawmakers relate to, which are unemployment rates. And I saw that our unemployment rate were higher than any. And so that translates into people. And
It
so the
does.
biggest mission that I hope we're on is that when we think of the arts, we don't think of an object or necessarily a performance, but we think of the people behind
That's right.
that. And so I'm hearing you talk about impact on multiple groups of people, not only the audience that you are performing or providing this really vital experience, but it's the individuals who are also dancing, because you mentioned that you're welcoming to all.
Yes.
That is, and go ahead.
I was just going to say, there was one moment in particular that I really loved with my dancers, where I did a piece called Rat Race. And it was the different socioeconomic kind of stages or in life, right? So we had a poor girl on the bottom, and then we had kind of the working class, and then we had like the newer money, and then we had the upper echelon. And there were 4 dancers, and they each basically told their own story all at the same time in 4 minutes. And we got to see, do they interact with each other? Do they see each other? Do they even have any awareness that that's going on at the very same time this is going on? So we did this piece, and then I made them sit down and do it individually, just do their part of the dance. And I had the other dancers watch, and they had never watched the other parts. And the one girl, the one that was on the bottom, was like, I just felt so alone doing my solo. No one ever came to help me. And the other girl, the next one up, was like, but I tried to help you 3 times and you pushed me away. And it's just oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I did that, but I guess I would do that if I were there. And having this realization of how we really do impact each other, and to be able to accept help, as well as, being able to give the help, but being willing to do it and not just walk away as some of the other people did. So it was really fun to see them also go, wow, like we really are exploring this, and I didn't think about it that way. Was really cool.
How do you see that translate into off-site, or when they leave and they're going out? Because you're dancers, you're a professional dance company, but these dancers also are employed elsewhere because you have to, right? Because we need to increase.
That's right.
We need to increase equity in paying our artists like any other profession, but that's a whole different conversation we can get into if you want, but it's different.
Yeah.
So how do you see that impacting them and you when you're...
Well, I think that, typically all of the dancers that we have are just very thoughtful people. And so they're going to be more willing. They're really great workers, first of all. It's like the person you want to hire, right? Because they're on time, they do their job, they're very conscientious. But then also, they see somebody outside, they're going to be concerned for them. They look at things differently. They have more of an awareness of, there's a big difference between I'm broke, I don't have money to go to the movies, and I'm broke, I don't have money for food. There's a big difference. And being able to acknowledge that and appreciate that. And other topics too. We do other topics as well, but that's for that specific piece. I think that it really kind of just opens up their mind is what it does.
Well, let's go into pay equity a little bit because I mentioned
Yeah.
it, and I
Yeah.
haven't really touched on that a lot yet in these
Yeah.
conversations. So what do you see and experienced? And I'm just curious you to share your thoughts.
Yeah. So I would say, unless you are a big company in the dance world, right? Unless you are a big company that has been around for like 50 years, we'll say, you're probably pretty well funded at this point. So you can pay your dancers fairly well. They're going to have benefits, doctor care, all that sort of thing, because they've been around. If you're new, you basically are, well, just find some donors. Okay. Well, most people don't have just this person that's going to give them an endowment, So it's like, okay, great. But one theater rental could be $10,000 for one theater rental. And now if I don't sell enough tickets to pay for that, now we're in the hole. Plus we're supposed to pay our dancers, So I think that it's really hard to be able to find enough funding because, like I said, unless you've been around and you have that real stronghold in funding, um, it's it's a real challenge. I mean, it's just a real challenge. I don't know what else to say about it. We have tried many different things. We've done galas. The tickets are okay and usually at least cover the cost of the theater, but sometimes it doesn't because people also think, well, I'll catch it next time or whatever. And it's like, but we need you to come, right? And we see it with sports, right? They'll show up no matter what. It could be raining, it could be snowing. They're going to be there. They'll walk a mile to get to the stadium. But if there's like a cloud in the sky, they probably are like, I'll just stay home. And that really hurts us because we've worked for months to get this together to present, and then they don't show up. So it's tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I refer to that as a shelf life, and that the arts shelf life is so limited. It's a weekend,
Yes.
or it could be, a couple weeks at best. Whereas if you look at commerce, whether it's a cell phone or a book or, those shelf lives are much longer. So you either hit
Yes.
it and you hit your
Mm-hmm.
budget or you don't.
Yes.
How much do you look at programming in or how your performance relates to or has some kind of connectivity with what's going on in the
Mm.
world outside of the arts?
So we do our best to stay fairly current. We've done pieces on the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. It's called Flint and Steel. So we did a whole piece on that. We had a dancer at that time who had lived there during it. So we used her and a whole bunch of documentaries to kind of figure out what is it that we need to convey. We did a piece that was based on The Handmaid's Tale. And so after they overturned Roe versus Wade, we took that piece to the State House steps and we did it outside. Um, so we do try to get in there and really address topics that are current here and now and, need to be thought about beyond, they see it on news or they see it on social media, but as soon as it's gone, they forget about it, but it's still here and it's still important. So we try to bring light to those things.
What response have you gotten with performances like The Handmaid's Tale, for example, at the State House when you're taking it out? How does that play out, and what difference have you seen rather than staying inside a theater?
Well, I'll say first of all, that's really hard on dancers. If you're doing concert dance, it is really hard to do it outside, like on the hard ground. But we felt, and all of my professionals were all older, so it is again even harder on our bodies. But we felt it was more important to make a statement, and that we were standing for, we want our rights. We don't want to go here, kind of thing. It was more important to do that than worry about one performance on our bodies. So we did it. But um, it It's pretty amazing. The people that came really were so supportive of it. We were a little worried that there might be some protesters or things. Luckily, no one actually showed up. So we didn't feel unsafe, which was good. But it, it just, to us, I believe it is more important to start those conversations and give them a different way. It's not black and white. It's not on a piece of paper. It is, you can see it, you can feel it, you can hear it. All of it gets into your mind and makes you think about it differently.
What strategies do you use to attract funders or donors?
A lot of it is at this point people that we know or people that know somebody who knows somebody. We go to the arts councils. Some of the bigger grants are really hard for small organizations to get because just because we're small doesn't mean that we don't need money, but it seems to kind of equal that a little bit. So that has been tricky, but those are the main things. And then we do things like our galas and things to kind of celebrate our funders and maybe find some other funders. So we do a private performance for a small group of people and try to do things that way.
Talk a little bit about your programming then. Like, how many performances do you do a season? And, what types of programming and how far out are you planning each season or series of performances?
Yeah. So we usually plan the season about a year in advance, mainly because we have to get the theaters reserved and things like that. And usually it's about a year out if you want specific dates. So that's about a year. We usually have 4 shows a year. This year we had to cut it down to 3 because we took on a bigger project. We're at a bigger theater. And the only way we could figure out how to possibly work it in was to cut one of our shows. So this season, we're only doing 3. But every year we do our holiday production. We have our own holiday show. It's called One Light, and it's about celebrating the common things about everyone's holiday traditions. So we do things about Diwali. We do things with Latin Christmas. We do, of course, just normal Christian Christmas. We do Hanukkah. We do Kwanzaa. And we bring them all together so people can experience them. We educate them about what they are. Then they get to see how it dances. So we always do that one every year. Then our second show is typically our children's show. So we do one show every year that is just for families and children. So this year we're doing fairy tales. Last year we did Pinocchio. And we invite school kids to come in for free if they can get to the theater, which there is a busing grant that they can get through the Arts Council. So if they can get here, then they get to see the show for free. And that is one of my happiest moments through the whole season because you see all these kids who have they've never seen a live performance and they may not have ever been in a theater. And they are just the best audiences. I mean, they cheer, they clap, they get so into it. And it's just beautiful that they finally get to see some art in person, and then we do public performances too, but we do a lot of school performances. And then our next 2 shows, one of them is always a social justice show that is committed to just doing topics that are relevant. And then sometimes we'll do a show on different life journeys as another show. This year, we're actually doing Carmina Burana as our big show, which is not typically a kind of show we would do, but one of our dancers has choreographed it, so we are going to present that. So it's a little different for us, but typically they have themes to them, and so we make sure that each season is slightly different. And even One Light, we keep growing it. So there's different renditions of Kwanzaa or different things in the Latin piece, so that it's always growing and with the time and with the people that are here. And trying to keep it relevant that way.
You mentioned a couple times being a small company. Can you explain those challenges and remind me how long you've been, the company's been around, and then those challenges versus the larger, more established organizations?
Yeah, so this is our 10th season, and that's super exciting for me. And challenges, well, I would say some of the biggest challenges are it's a volunteer board, but it's a very much a working board. So they have to give a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I wear about 5 hats in order to make it work. For the first 4 years, I didn't get paid for any of the work that I did to try to get enough funding to pay the dancers better. So that's a challenge, and also trying to wear so many hats is really a challenge, because where I would like to be able to just be with my dancers and really work with them and make it as I want, I have to do that. And then I have to go do the administrative side, and then I have to dance in it too. So it's a lot to juggle. And then, I mean, of course, the funding. So it's, you know, in order to grow my company, I need to keep growing the level of dancers that I have in my company. In order to grow the level of the dancers, I need to be able to pay more. So it's like you get stuck in this place of, I mean, not to say that my dancers are not wonderful, they are, but especially younger dancers, they're coming out going, well, I need to be paid this. And it's like, that's great. I would love for you to be paid that. I would love to be paid that, but that's not where we are, because it's just not allowed to us. That we don't, we can't offer health insurance. We're not big enough. We can't do the things that big companies can and do, right? I mean, it's like they're, an employee of the company. Our dancers are independent contractors because that's the only way we can do it. And it's not ideal for certain. I mean, we spend 6 hours a day working on these things, 6 days a week. And people are always like, well, it's you should be happy you get paid anything for, doing what you love. It's like, thank you. Thank you. But it's actually my profession. And that's not really a cool answer. So,
Right. Right. I
yeah,
mean, we have physicians that do what they love, right? Or
that's right.
scientists or
Yes.
astronauts or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And they're getting paid for doing what they love. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that that's where the kind of that cycle of how do we break out of this cycle of
Hmm.
this notion that this luxury happens at no cost and
Hmm.
that you are just can magically support yourself in addition to the hundreds of hours that it takes you to hone your craft.
I mean, it's tricky, right? A lot of people look at the pay and they're like, well, I can come on Saturdays. And it's like, but you can't dance professionally and dance once a week. Like you can have a really nice little performing group, but that's not a professional group. You have to be honing your skills all the time. So yes, funding, we need funding.
So you said earlier 6 hours, 6 days a week. Is that
Yeah.
what's required for everyone that's the dancing they're doing?
So it depends on what level you're at. So the main company, that's what we do. We dance during the day. Then there's a second company. The second company dances in the evenings, and the second company, they only dance about 2 hours a day, and then on Saturdays with us. And then there's a company tracking portion, which are actual from 10 and up, who study more in their everyday classes. And then they have special classes that are around performing, and they get selected for certain pieces to perform with us.
So as we're wrapping up the conversation, I want to go back to the beginning where we talked about this measurement because you just mentioned we need more funding.
Yes.
And I strongly believe that data is the future of funding.
Yeah,
If we can
I
go
think
and
so.
show more of those transformational impact, public value, beyond that, you are uplifting because I really
Right.
want to get that word removed from when we describe the
Yes.
arts. Um,
Yes.
so what do you hope to get with the data? Meaning, what are you measuring? Can you give me one or two examples of what you're looking for that you know that you get And
Mhm.
what are you hoping to get in hard numbers that you can then use
Um,
to grow your funding?
yeah, I think that the biggest ones are on empathy, like that they can really, realize and look outside of themselves and actually have a moment to not have judgment around what they're seeing, but to actually hear what is being said and then be able to take that and think about it. So we want to be able, I think that's an important skill for life. And we want to be able to measure that that's something that we are creating and allowing them to do. Um, I think that we want to see that they are honestly learning something new. That's very important to us that we are educating their audience. And we hope that that will help. There's another buzzword I would say going around in granting, which is, are you innovative enough? And I'm hoping that some of this data will help them understand there's more ways to be innovative than, did you put flashing lights and rain on the stage? Like, I don't need to do all of that to be innovative. The way that I approach it, the way that, we all do these things, that is innovative. And I'm hoping that the metrics will help to prove that, that is not the fancy flash stuff is not what's making the difference. It's this work.
So touch that whole innovative portion. Is that a recent
Yes.
thing that you're seeing?
Yes, yes. And we I got to sit on a granting council to the panel. And it was a word that was thrown around a lot. And we just got it on one of our most recent grant apps. Is it innovative enough? Was the question. And it's like, how, like, what is innovative? What is innovative? Like I said, like flashy stuff. And that seems to be what they want. They want something different. And I'm like, what about being innovative by being very true to the different lineages of the work that we are teaching? And making sure that there's pure movement coming out of these dancers, and it's not just whatever feels good in the moment, right? That's innovative right now because everybody's into, all the contemporary, all the things that are just in postmodern, movie, flowy, whatever. We're studying techniques, old techniques, so that they're tried and true, right? But that's not innovative anymore. And I'm like, but nobody else is doing it. It's like we're getting into all this other stuff. So, isn't it innovative how we figure out how to do a really nice show on $5,000 when it takes 30,000 for someone else to do it? I mean, tell me how that's not innovative, So, yeah.
Okay. So do they know what they're asking is
No.
what keeps coming in my
I
head.
don't think they do. I don't think they do. I think that that's the sad part. It's when they have the panelists, they have them from all different backgrounds. They do try to get like dancers and things on the boards that know about what they're doing. But at the same time, it's like I don't think they do understand what that actually is asking and how can you actually measure that? Like, let's come up with some other criteria. Like, are you making a difference in the community? Are you are you creating empathy amongst our population, which will only help us grow as a community? Those are great questions that hopefully this will be able to prove, but are you innovative enough? I mean, depends on who you ask.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds like we're taking a word from what we're hearing other industries
Hmm.
doing and we're applying
Yes.
it to ours without really understanding what that innovation means. But we're
Yes.
not asking the empathy or are we helping connect to community? Are we improving that we don't feel lonely?
Yes.
Because the thought is, well, we don't know how to measure that. But how innovation is such a subjective word,
It
perhaps.
is. It totally is. Yes.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
I like
Yep.
your description. You really hit home where you said, is it innovative to put on a performance for $5,000 where it would take another company 30,000? That's what I don't think we understand and should be really celebrating that business savviness that you are able to do to provide professional excellence
Right.
on pennies or with pennies.
Right. Yeah. So thank you. Yes.
No, you're welcome. I was hoping that was going to invoke another
Yeah.
emotion from you as
Yeah.
a response of how do you keep going with that?
How do I keep going? Again, it is really seeing what it does for the other people. Because there have been, believe me, many times. I have 2 young children. I'm a single mom. I run another business. Like, I am busy and I am tired. I'm getting older, and I have thought about it many times. If I stop this today, would anybody care? And every time I bring it up to different people, they're like, "Oh, yeah, like the difference this makes, you can't stop this." That's what keeps me going because it is exhausting wearing all those hats and also having to fend for, do I have food for my children? It is a lot. But to me, it is more important that we have a platform that will allow people. Sometimes it's just, people can get really offended at things if you say it to them. But maybe if they see it without any words and you can interpret it, maybe they'll have that second to think about it before they judge you and get offended. That's what I want. I want this population to start to look and not just immediately go, "Oh, I'm offended by that." Okay, why are you offended by that? Does it touch something in you? Or, do you not understand it? Let's actually look at this. What offends you? And maybe it's there. Maybe that's just a reaction we're having. So it's coming back to humanity. I feel like we're losing that. And I feel like if this is my small way that I can impart some humanity into this world, that's what I want to do.
Thank you, Rachel. That's
Thank you.
really great. What I like to close the conversation asking everyone the same question. So if you've
Okay.
listened to other episodes, you'll know what's coming. What color do you love the most and why?
I love purple the most. And I think because it gives me the levity to allow my third eye to guide me.
Wow. Has it always been purple?
It's always been purple.
The levity of your third eye to do what?
To guide me into what I need to say, what I need to do. I've often said, I'm not as smart as some of the things that come out of my mouth. It comes from somewhere else.
So it's that guides your intuition.
Yep. That's right. Yeah.
That's really great. Well, I appreciate this time. Thank you so much for sharing with me.
Thank you so much. It's fun.
And we will have information on where to find your website and all of that in the show notes. So we'll
Cool.
make sure that
Thanks.
we link that as well. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah. Thank you.